This 17 News at Noon podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Alex Fisher and we do have breaking news at this hour. An hours-long standoff in Lamont this morning forced a nearby elementary school to go on lockdown. 17's Chris Burton joins us live from the scene this afternoon with details. Chris?
Alex, Lamont Elementary has lifted that lockdown now as the man who was barricaded has now been apprehended by sheriff's deputies. According to KCSO, just after 8 this morning, deputies responded to reports of a man threatening drivers with a crowbar. By the time they arrived, he had shut himself in this seatrain. Multiple KCSO units, including a K-9 and SWAT crisis negotiation team, then surrounded that container. We heard deputies attempt to communicate with him. Where we were standing, we weren't able to hear any sort of response from the man. Just before 10:30, deputies made entry and deployed a K-9. We didn't hear or see any shots fired, although there's no word from KCSO yet on what exactly happened during that altercation or if there were any injuries suffered. What we do know is that the man was taken into custody. Alex, anyone with more information about this incident is encouraged to call KCSO. That number to call, 861-3110. Live in Lamont, Chris Burton, 17 News.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. 2 people, including a pregnant woman, were shot early this morning in central Bakersfield by someone who police say was supposed to be in prison. It happened at the Plaza Motel on Union Avenue just after 2 a.m. Police say a man and a pregnant woman were both shot. They were taken to the hospital and expected to survive. Police say the shooter, Brian Sewell, was released from prison early under AB 109, which releases nonviolent offenders. Sewell was arrested for multiple counts of assault and gang participation. Meantime, a man was shot and killed outside a marijuana dispensary in northeast Bakersfield. The sheriff's office says it happened just after 10 p.m. last night in the parking lot of Knott's Collective on Knott Street near River Boulevard. Deputies say that's where they found a man who had been shot several times. Officials did not say if anyone was arrested. A shocking update from Kern Public Health today, and it is a grim milestone. We have now lost 2,000 people to COVID-19 in less than 2 years. 17 new deaths were reported today. That brings our death toll to 2,005 lives lost to the virus. Most of the new deaths were people who died last year. We also learned of another 1,700 new cases today, keeping our average to about 2,000 people getting infected every day. 324 people are in the hospital with COVID-19. 47 others are fighting for their lives in the ICU. Now, state models show this to be the peak of the Omicron surge here in Kern County. And although it may mean the virus's spread will subside, it also means hospitals will continue to be overwhelmed. I spoke with Dr. Glenn Goldis, the Chief Medical Officer at Kern Medical this morning on 17 News at Sunrise, about the challenges they're dealing with today.
Well, even though this particular Omicron variant doesn't seem to cause as severe disease, the sheer number of cases is still putting considerable pressure on our emergency rooms. It's a combination of a lack of beds, a lot of demand, and not as many healthcare workers available to care for the patients.
Dr. Goldis also says Kern's low vaccination rate is hindering efforts to save lives in our community. Meantime, the Kern High School District saw more than 2,400 students and staff test positive for the virus in the first 2 weeks of this year. That is according to the district's COVID-19 dashboard. The most recent data shows positive tests for January 3rd through the 16th. During that time, Liberty High School saw the most positive tests with 257. Arvin High School also dealt with an outbreak, logging 214 cases. Bakersfield High came in third on the list with 198. According to KHSD, the data reflects positive cases believed to be on a school campus or work site, even if the case was not contracted or was contracted elsewhere.
Hello, this is Tim Callahan with Clinica Sierra Vista, and we're excited to unveil the Community Health Center of the Future, our comprehensive care center. It's located right across the street from Memorial Hospital. We have every service under one roof, from family medicine, OBGYN care, dental services for adults and children, behavioral health, and much more. So find your way to better care at Clinica Sierra Vista this year at our comprehensive care center. Visit our website, clinicasierravista.org, for the latest on this project. We'll see you soon.
And now to news making headlines around the nation this afternoon. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer plans to retire at the end of the Supreme Court term. President Biden says he's not wasting any time in picking a nominee. In address this morning, President Biden says he has not yet made a selection for his nominee, but will make his choice by the end of February. Back on the campaign trail, Biden pledged to nominate the first black woman to serve on the court. The short list of potential candidates reportedly includes Federal District Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson and California Supreme Court Justice Leandra Kruger. The eventual nominee will not change the ideological breakdown of the court as it stands right now with a 6-3 conservative majority. The East Hills Walmart was evacuated briefly yesterday afternoon after a propane tank exploded and shot into the air. The Bakersfield Fire Department says it happened just before 3 p.m. at the store located on Fashion Place. The store was evacuated for about 30 minutes. No one was hurt, and the fire department says the flames were quickly put out. California Attorney General Rob Bonta announced yesterday that more than 90% of eligible California cities have signed on to his historic $26 billion settlement with the nation's major pharmaceutical distributors. Distributors Cardinal McKesson and AmerisourceBergen and drug manufacturer Johnson & Johnson are accused of creating and fueling the nationwide opioid crisis. Bonta says this will bring much needed relief and resources to people here in California impacted by opioid addiction. He says this settlement will hold these companies accountable for their role in the devastating opioid crisis and help people recovering from substance abuse disorders.
During this crisis, over 1 million Americans have died from an overdose. So tragic. Fathers found dead alone on cold sidewalks, mothers dead behind locked doors discovered by their children. Today's announcement can't bring back those lives. It can't heal the devastating pain families still cope with, but it can prevent future death.
When finalized, the settlement will resolve billions of dollars in claims of both states and local governments across the nation. The settlement also requires significant industry changes that will help prevent another opioid crisis. And now to our continuing coverage of the synthetic opioid fentanyl. And a local mother whose child died from fentanyl has organized a candlelight vigil for those lost to the deadly drug. Keir Butterworth organized the Light a Candle for a Loved One event set for today at 6 p.m. at the park at Riverwalk. The public is invited to come down and light a candle in remembrance for all of those struggling with addiction and for those who died due to drugs and/or alcohol. The Bakersfield Police Department, meantime, is inviting you to join a virtual workshop today detailing the agreement made by BPD and the State Department of Justice. Last August, you may remember, the Justice Department announced BPD had resolved allegations related to unjust policing in communities of color, which triggered a probe into BPD's operations back in 2016. BPD signed a 5-year plan overseen by a court and an independent monitor to keep an eye on officers and ensure the revision and review of practices, policies, and procedures. You can join representatives from BPD and the independent monitor today for a panel discussion about that agreement and how the monitoring process will work. It's happening at 6:30 this evening. We have a link to register on our website, kget.com. You can just click on the hot link icon.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.